Hey everyone, welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard, an audio podcast. Got a really awesome guest on today. She's known as the creativity whisperer to the C-suite, and she's been selected as one of the top 50 keynote speakers in the world. Please join me in welcoming Natalie Nixon. Welcome.
Hey, Thomas, thank you so much for having me. Good to be here.
Thanks. Ready for 20 questions?
I am.
Okay, question one. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
I'm a creativity strategist and the CEO and founder of Figure Eight Thinking, which means I help companies connect the dots between creativity and business impact. And I live in Philly on the East Coast of the USA, which is also where I'm from. And I'm a lifelong dancer.
Perfect. Question two. What's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
I think it's my perspective that creativity is not a nice to have, it's a must have, and the unique way that I frame and define creativity, which is that it's our ability to toggle between wonder and rigor to solve problems. It's my perspective that we are all hardwired to be creative as humans. And the distinction between one person to another is just your commitment to developing that creative capacity, your commitment to do the toggling between wonder and rigor to solve problems and deliver value.
Great. And just a note for our audience, if you guys are interested in the C-suite episodes, please check out the episode with Roger Vanderheed. That was a really enjoyable one. Question three, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
I do this because it was actually this magical convergence in my life and career. I was a professor for 16 years. Before working in academia, I worked in the fashion industry. And I have this blend of a background that includes cultural anthropology, the fashion industry, which really exposed me to not only the value of trends and the business of the fashion industry, but also the role of beauty and aesthetics and desire in developing consumer insight. My work in the education sector as a professor, and then even earlier, I was a middle school English teacher, really helped me to fall in love with learning. I think all great teachers love to learn, and that's certainly what I need to do in my work as a global keynote speaker at Figure Eight Thinking. So I just happened upon this incredible convergence of all of these divergent threads in my life and my career, and had the opportunity to step outside of my comfort zone, which at the time was I was an academic. I was an associate professor and a founding director of the strategic design MBA program, and uh, uh, to give a whirl at being an entrepreneur and building Figure Eight Thinking. And I have not looked back. I've been doing it since 2017.
Perfect. So people struggle with number four, but the question is, what does your future look like?
Oh, that's a really, what does my future look like? Well, I can tell you what I hope it looks like. I hope that my future is a world where I am changing lives with ideas. That's really the mission to my work. I'm open to the possibility that that may take different forms and shapes. It certainly is taking a different shape than what it did when I was a professor, because even back then, what got me out of bed every morning was to change lives with ideas. But I want to continue to do that work that energizes me. I want to be traveling a lot. I want to maybe make it up to the ranks of becoming an amateur ballroom dancer. And I want to continue to do more open water swims through a company called Swim Trek. I did my very first open water swim in Crete, Greece last summer, and it was life-changing. It was awesome.
Perfect. Five, we say is unique to this show. The question is, let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
Oh gosh, place is everything. I am very fascinated with what we could call the space-time continuum, what our physical space looks like, how we can extend ourselves through space. And so place falls into that. I am in my hometown of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Philly people, we either never leave, or if we leave, we never come back. And I'm part of that critical mass of Philly people who left and came back. And I find it incredibly rewarding to be in the place of my birth, where I can it's kind of a touchstone because I do a ton of traveling, but there's a wonderful familiarity that my sense of place gives me. I literally live 10 minutes from where I grew up, in my neighborhood of Mount Airy, the West Mount Airy neighborhood of Philadelphia, and it's very meaningful.
Perfect. And six, if you had to start from the beginning, what advice would you give your former younger self?
Ah, so much advice I would give my former younger self. I think I would start with you're great. You're fine just the way you are. You know, I'm probably not the only one who went through all sorts of contortions of self-doubt and my inner critic always rearing its head growing up. So just to have that surety that you are exactly where you're meant to be, that kind of solidness of, again, it kind of goes back to your former question, that sense of place of where I am is exactly where I should be, and who I am is perfect. That is what I would remind my younger self. I don't know if she would pay attention, but that's what I remind her.
Great. Can you describe a day in your life?
Oh, they really vary, but when I'm at home in Philly, it starts out with I have a practice of prayer. It helps to ground me. It's also a silent time in the morning. I've started to, I love hot oat milk matcha lattes. So I have a whole contraption and system, and I do that for myself at home. I'm writing a book. So I commit to at least 15 minutes on really crunch days, but on really days where I can really dive deeply, 2 hours writing chunks, a lot of phone calls on uh, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I'd like to book in my weeks on Mondays and Fridays with much more time to do heads down work. And I'm trying to read at least 15 minutes of fiction every day. When I'm on the road traveling, I always try to integrate a bit of what I call leisure, work plus leisure. So, for example, 2 weeks ago when I was in Cleveland, Ohio, I visited the Cleveland Public Library, the main branch, and saw an incredible art exhibit. I think the artist's name is Louise May. And it was literally entering a space of wonder and awe. She has an exhibit of over 60,000 dried flowers. Most days I pepper my days with a short walk, not like a 30-minute walk, but sometimes it's like a 5-minute walk, a 10-minute walk. And a day like today, I have a ballroom dance lesson. If not ballroom, then sometimes it'll be a hip hop dance lesson. And dinner with my husband John, and try to get to bed before 10 p.m.
Perfect. And eight is around lifelong learning. It's a popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
I stay up to date by asking lots of questions. For example, in the process of writing my next book, I get to interview a lot of interesting people. So learning from them. I love listening to podcasts. I love, for example, the Financial Times series of podcasts. I love their podcasts. I learn a lot from listening to podcasts. And I actually learn a lot by reading fiction. I try to wean myself off of only erring on the side of reading nonfiction. I think there's so much self-reflection and curiosity that buds inside of me when I read fiction.
Great. And nine is tools. What tools do you use? Do you use both digital and analog tools?
Yeah, I do a lot. I love a good list. So I love scribbling lists on paper using a pen. It gives me a false sense of control in my life. I know that's the psychology that I have behind it. And one of my favorite uh, tech digital tools is an app called Word Hippo. It is an online or app thesaurus. I love it because it's just brilliant in the way it can deliver antonyms, synonyms, using a word in a sentence. And as a writer, and as a speaker, it's so helpful for me to diversify my vocabulary, to really, I first of all, I'm learning as I use Word Hippo, and also it helps me to express an idea in more interesting ways. Um, on the physical well-being side, I love a tool called Stretch It. As a lifelong dancer and a middle-aged woman, it's really important for me to stay limber and flexible. So I love all of the sorts of stretching exercises that the Stretch It app affords, either at my desk or stretched out on my mat.
Great. And halfway, number 10, how do you deal with work life or life work balance?
I intentionally schedule in breaks. So on my calendar, there's something, they're usually color coded yellow, and it literally says lunch, or it says break, or it has a little icon of a bicycle. 2 years ago, I bought myself an incredible gift. I bought myself an electric bike. And it's pedal assist, and it's not the kind where you zoom down the street, but when you feel like you need a little boost, you can ratchet it up, and I'll go for a bike ride to our food co-op and pick up a bag of rice or some cashews or something just to move and get out the house. So I don't expect it just to happen without me planning for it. So I intentionally add it to my calendar.
Great. And if you weren't doing what you do now, what would you be doing?
I mean, I might still be teaching. I might be a full professor by now if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now. Um, if I weren't a global creativity strategist and keynote speaker and author, I'd be doing some version of that. Maybe I would just try to dive into ballroom dance and spend all my energy in that and see what I could make of that. I'd certainly be traveling a lot, but I feel really content and happy with the work that I get to do every day.
Great. And what would you not like to do with your career?
Ugh. I guess I just would not want to do work that is monotonous. I would not want to do work where I'm sedentary all day. I know that I would not want to be a truck driver. I admire truck drivers, but I get anxious just looking at truck drivers trying to maneuver down really narrow urban streets in Philly. It's a very old city, so we have a lot of narrow streets. I look admiringly at people who do that work because I think I could never do that. I would be full of so much anxiety. So that's work that I would not want to do because I don't think I have the temperament for it. Although I do fantasize about and romanticize being out on the open roads that the truck drivers get to do. But yeah, any kind of work that's pretty sedentary and monotonous would not be my jam.
Great. And how about a favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Keep your eye on the donut, not the hole.
How about a least favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Uh, Least favorite. Think outside the box.
Mm. If you had to choose one word to describe yourself, what word would it be?
Miraculous.
What keeps you up at night?
Hmm. Will I become the woman of my dreams? Will I achieve all of these ideas that are always buzzing around inside of me?
Final stretch here. What's the dream you're chasing?
Mm, I want to be an African American woman who creatively disrupts and is additive to the field of innovation, future of work, and creativity. That's the dream I'm chasing.
What inspires you?
Children, nature, just about any form of art.
Do you have any advice you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, a version of everything I've done wrong, which is like don't stay up at night worrying about chasing your dreams. Don't do that. Do keep your eye on the donut, not the hole, which a former boss in the fashion industry once told me, which is when you think about a very Zen statement, it's about focusing on what is, not on what would have, should have, could have been. And to not take yourself so seriously. It helps to just have a sense of humor.
Great. And finally, number 20, how can our listeners keep tabs on you? What's our call to action?
Listeners can keep tabs on me by going to figure8thinking.com. That's the number 8 in there. And engage with me on LinkedIn. Follow me on LinkedIn and on my Instagram, which is Nat W. Nixon. And join my Ever Wonder newsletter. And it's a monthly newsletter, and I share all sorts of tips and tactics and highlight other people who are doing incredible work in the field of innovation creativity. And I'd love people to stay in touch because I'm coming out with a new book next year about new ways to reframe and think about productivity and work through the lenses of movement, thought, and rest. So more to come on that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. You came as a recommendation and so glad to have you on. Thanks.
I appreciate that. I'm curious, who recommended me?
Kevin Bouthing.
Oh, right. Awesome. He's wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Thomas. Thank you for having me. Great to meet you.
Thank you.